27.2 is funding to strengthen our cybersecurity and replace aging IT equipment in the amount of $1,179,500. Under our plan, we would utilize one-time funds to hire contract IT professionals to help us get caught up on addressing network security needs, which would enhance the cybersecurity of the department. We would also utilize these funds to refresh hardware technology throughout the department. Then 227.3 is funding for the purchase of equipment and technology for cyber prosecutions and the proposed organized retail crime and cyber crime prosecution unit in the amount of $103,500. And our Medicaid fraud control unit is 228.1, statewide increase in funds again for the one-time $1,000 salary supplement. 228.2 is the transfer of funds from Medicaid fraud to the law program to help fund our ORC and cyber equipment needs and to align the budget with expenditures. And with that, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'd like to thank you all for the work that you do and ask your favorable consideration, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you, General Carr. You do have a question. Senator Chairman Albers, what is your mic number? There you go. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Always great to see you, Attorney General.
Hello, Senator.
Thank you for putting cybersecurity in the forefront of your department and what you're doing to help others. In this, the dollar amount, are they also doing a full assessment of what you have and potentially looking at outside vendors who can help put multiple layers of monitoring in place for your office?
Senator, if I may ask Clark Rayner, who's our Chief IT Officer, to come up and answer. He can answer better than I can.
Thank you.
Yes, yes, sir. In fact, we've already been through an assessment of the CIS cybersecurity framework. We're looking at NIST as well after that. We've got to start somewhere. Right now, we're about 75% complete with the CIS controls. And with that, I say the 75%, the first 75% is the easy half. The last 25% is really the tough part, and that's why we really need some help to come in and help us with that.
And thank you for what you're doing. You know, not just cities, counties, and states, but areas of the federal government and certainly businesses are being plagued by malware, ransomware attacks. So I applaud the work that you're doing and would encourage us to also look outside of just our internal systems and use some of the outside experts to help us.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Albers. Any other questions from the committee? All right. General Carr, thank you for the good work that you do and what you're continuing to do, especially with your work on gang problems that we have around the state. And I know we've discussed your expansion of that. And thank you for embracing the tools that we've given you and giving us good ideas on better tools that you need to do the job. So thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate y'all for all your support. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
All right. Next, we'll hear from the Court of Appeals.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Thank you for having us this afternoon. I'm happy to be here, happy to answer questions. Some good news to start with. In 12.1, and I am following the track sheet under Section 5 Court of Appeals, 12.1 and 12.3, I'll start with 12.1, was an increase in funds to annualize temporary senior judges' salary and commute costs. That is money that we are not asking for, that we are actually giving back. In addition, on 12.3, an increase in funds for the annual cybersecurity insurance premium. That is also a sum that we are giving back at this time. Those are not, we basically overestimated that in that category, and to be good stewards of the state's money, we want to make sure we give that back. So the only increase that we are actually asking for at this time in the FY24 is under 12.2, which is an increase in funds for the cost of changes to the docket necessitated by credit card service vendors. That is a cost that has been passed on to us from our credit card vendor that allows us and lawyers to access the docket and pay for the things that they need in filing. And that is all that we are asking for. The additional sum at the bottom of $96,885, that's just the reimbursement of the one-time $1,000 supplement. That is all for our FY24. If anybody has any questions, certainly I'm happy to entertain those at this time.
Any questions? Yeah. Chairman Tillery, what number are you, 4?
Judge,
Okay.
thank you. Sorry, Judge. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Judge, as well. First of all, I appreciate you handing that money back, but you gave it all to the house. So we'll have to figure that part out. But the real question is, on the service card vendor fees, do the fees stay with the court? Or do those, help me understand that, because I would think that the fees would incorporate the vendor costs, but I'm just trying to get a better grasp of it. And if I need to ask you offline later, I understand.
No, I'm going to turn that over to Chris Walker. He's our fiscal director. I asked him to be up here anticipating that might be a question.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We don't keep those service fees. We pass those along to the state treasury. We at the end of the day, we keep very little fees at the court. We really hardly keep anything. Maybe like $300,000 a year. So that's pretty much it.
I may get with you offline later just to make sure we have a clarity of what's kept and what comes through.
Sure.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Any other questions? Judge, I don't see any, so thank you for being with us. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. All right. Statewide Business Court. Good to see you, Judge.
Good to see you, Mr. Pro Tem and committee members. I want to start off by thanking you for your support of the business court. And I don't have much to ask today except on page 2, 13.1 is just a request to utilize existing funds for the commute expense for a judge who lives 50 miles or more from the Capitol. I'm the first judge at the business court who fits that category. I hope in the future we'll have many more, maybe from Macon and Rome and Vidalia. But I want to put it in place and have it in place. It's not going to, we're not asking for any added funding.
Okay. Any questions? Chairman? No. Yeah,
Good to see you.
It is, yeah. All right. Judge, I don't see any questions, so thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
Yes, sir. How about the Judicial Council? Welcome, Justice Bethel. Nice to see you.
Thank you,
See all
Mr.
these Senate alums coming back to the same offices you guys used to roam in.
Can't stay away, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I think everybody's a chairman in here, and we appreciate the opportunity to present to you some comments on the amended fiscal year 2024 budget. I have with me Andrew Zoll, whose primary function is to keep me from making mistakes and to take over if you ask me really hard questions. On behalf of the Chief Justice and the Judicial Council of Georgia, the three things that I will talk to you about in the amended budget on Section 6, line number 17.1. This is an ongoing project with our Access to Justice Committee. Many of you will recall that the committee has been looking to support legal self-help centers. This is historically what we would have called a law library in a community, but that sort of evokes images of dusty books and bookshelves. And these are usually computer terminals and form-based centers where individuals who don't have representation have the ability to get resources to be more efficient when they show up in court, so that they're not coming in, the judge is sending them back out, and they have to refile and reform. In pursuing this project, what we have learned is that best practices is hard to define at any level across the state and nationally. And so we have partnered with the Carl Vinson Institute of Government for a study that they've given us parameters on that is really targeted first with determining how do we best measure that return on investment. That, in other words, the savings at the court level, the savings to a county, the savings to the state, if we efficiently move unrepresented parties through the process. That project came in actually at $168,532. You will see on the line we have $125,000. The House has passed that along to you. We think through internal savings, looking through our budget, that if you can hold that line, we're not asking you to bump it up or gross it up to 168. We think we'll be able to fund that project if we can hold that line, and would appreciate the Senate's consideration in doing that. On line 17.2, the House eliminated a request that should be familiar to the members of this committee, because in this year's fiscal budget, we had sought $619,000 for medical legal partnerships. The legislature, with the assistance of the governor, put $200,000 in. We are working through that this year and seeing great success, and continue to report to you on that, and we'll continue to do so. That's a number that you're going to see again in the big budget, as it were, in the fiscal 25 budget, but we recognize the House, zeroed that out. As a matter of pure candor, at this point in the calendar year, it would be unlikely that we would be able to spend $419,000 efficiently. It would be sort of reckless to try to commit it. So to the extent the Senate is interested in this program and enhancing the allocation, we certainly can talk offline about where that might be from an appropriate standpoint. But just so that you remember, these are individuals who are embedded. Most often think Atlanta Legal Aid, Georgia Legal Services. We have a few around the state that precede this project, but our idea is if we seed them into communities, over time, the healthcare industry should have an appetite for also being a partner, and has in some settings around the state already. But these are attorneys. They cannot work for the hospital because they might have, or would have, conflicts of interest on a regular basis. But patients who present who are indigent, who are in need of services, and that can be a full gamut. And sort of, I'll give you the one end of the spectrum is an individual who is waiting on a transplant. You all understand transplant protocols do not allow an individual to receive most transplants unless the home environment is safe and healthy for that individual after the transplant. So that person stays in our hospital. There's nowhere for them to go on discharge, and they cost, because they're indigent, they cost sort of all of society, and they don't receive care. What these medical legal partnerships attorneys are allowed to do is sometimes work to break a lease if it's an unhealthy environment, if you can find another place for that individual to go. Oftentimes, if that's a minor, they can find a family member whose home would meet the standard for transplant, and they can get a temporary guardianship, so they can move to an aunt's house when they get their transplant or whatever procedure it is, so that they can go home and recuperate and be restored to health. So we got good numbers of savings. The other side of that is individuals who have much sort of smaller needs, but it's impeding their ability to move through the health system, and so they are at the highest cost point of care when we can move them through. So that's the background behind medical legal partnerships. As a reminder, again, you will be hearing that talk again, and we will have a few more details for you, I would imagine, when we talk about fiscal 25. The last item that you'll see for us is line 17.3. I actually do have Judge David Will here. If you have any questions that I haven't addressed in presenting this. This is a request from the Council of Municipal Court Judges. This request actually will mirror a request that you will see in their 25 request, and it is trying to do two things: restore some past funding and balance their request for what is a required biennial reporting process and goal setting targets for them. The Council of Municipal Court Judges has statutorily imposed obligations and duties. Their budget, their portion of the state budget in fiscal 2014 was $16,185. Today, it's $13,919. This request is $18,000. $18,951, and part of that, again, is restoring a COVID era cut. Part of that is balancing the strategic planning cost request. They have it's roughly a $15,000 cost every 2 years. And I'm sure Judge Will can talk about this if you have questions. They're a council that is pretty lean. The administrative officers of the courts helps them from an administrative standpoint, operations standpoint, but their officers are paying a lot of expenses out of pocket to come to quarterly meetings and those sorts of things, and this is what we're looking for. So, Mr. Chairman, I probably have already talked too long, but I will stop for questions.
All right, you have a question, Chairman Albers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Always great to see you, Justice Bethel. I want to add some more perspective for the rest of our committee members. I sit on the board of the Georgia Transplant Foundation and Jeffrey Epstein House, and the work that you're just talked about is so meaningful because it's wrapped around oftentimes a lot of our non-for-profits that are helping these very people. And this is a critical point in truly get them care. And what that means to the state more than anything else is saving their life. But secondarily, it saves the state $62 for every one we invest. That's a pretty good ROI. So I just want to pass it along. Thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Parent. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to see my former seatmate.
Likewise.
Okay, so just on this same topic, follow-up question is, you mentioned $613,000. Tell me again what that number is.
The original request was $619,000. You funded $200,000. That really is reflective of a level of funding that we feel like we can administer and give you a good return on investment. It's not fixed that we would say that we wouldn't take more, but we don't want to ask for more and then not be able to administer it effectively. So in partnering with entities like Atlanta Legal Aid, Georgia Legal Services, that was a level that we felt confident we could staff across the state in different communities. We have active conversations in several communities across the state that we are ready to move forward with. The money that you appropriated this year, I think directly funded Savannah.
Savannah and expanding to Grady and Atlanta.
Yeah. So one piece of that is in Savannah, and the other piece is expanding a program at Grady. And we have conversations with other communities and opportunities. I think the hospital community has been very willing to talk and have this conversation. They see value too in the proposition.
What is your, do you know your request for this in the FY25?
It's 419. In other words, it's still the 619. The 200 is carrying forward. If and when y'all give us that, then we'll have a sense of, is this something that we can wrap our arms around and effectively do? And in all candor, part of our desire and interest too is to build a program and then invite more and more partners so that it doesn't have to just be a state program, because the healthcare industry, the hospitals, in the same way that Senator Albers talked about, that saves for the state, it saves for the hospitals as well. And so looking to partner and say, could you also make a contribution to Georgia Legal Services or Atlanta Legal Aid, and we maximize these dollars. So the idea is that that's a place where we can confidently administer at that level. And then if we can deliver success on at that level, then we'll have a conversation. But that's where we came up with that.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Chairman Tillery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Justice. My question is on the criminal data exchange. Do you guys have any update, or can you tell us kind of where we are on that and how that's moving along? I know that's a priority of the chairs. And
I can tell you that I know it gets the attention of my colleagues who are working directly. I am not on the CDX committee, working group, and so I would tell you, all I would be telling you is that I hear them talking about it and working on it regularly. And I think, as the chair knows, there are some other opportunities that may be in the works as it relates to other classes of court and the way we do data management in the judiciary has a lot of opportunities for us, and so I don't have an immediate report, but I will commit to you that I will make sure you have one. I mean, I just don't want to sit here and make stuff up.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Chairman Tillery. Any other questions? All right. Justice Bethel, thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Great to see you. Thanks for your work. All right. We will now hear from the juvenile courts.
Good afternoon, Chairman.
Good afternoon.
I'm Kirsten Wallace. I'm the Budget Director with the Council of Juvenile Court Judges, and if I could take a moment just to introduce these two gentlemen that are with me today. Eric John, he's our Executive Director, and the President for the Council of Juvenile Court Judges is Juvenile Court Judge Warner Kennan from the Chattahoochee Judicial Circuit.
Great. Welcome to both of you. Thank you for being here.
Thanks. Mr. Chairman, if I can, I'm just going to jump to our request. It's on page 7. We are section 7 of the budget document, 21.1 increased funds for the grants to the counties for the Atlanta Judicial Circuit. This is pursuant to 151152. It's $12,500. This is for a 6-month period. 21.2, increased funds, grants to counties for the Coweta Judicial Circuit. This is the same thing. It's pursuant to 151152. It's a 6-month funding. And then 21.3, this is increased funds for the juvenile court judge's salary supplement pursuant to the general appropriations for the fiscal year 2023. Our original request was $218,000, but based on expenditures, we are requesting $170,000 to finish out the year. And
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, that's our request, and if you have any questions.
Questions? Chairman Tillery?
Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Apologize, Mr. Chairman.
No, please.
I want to dive down into this 170 with you
Okay,
offline.
okay.
Anything else? Chairman Tillery?
No, sir.
Okay. Any other questions? What, I know we have in times past, and there's been some discourse about the backlog issues with the juvenile courts.
Right.
Can you tell us where you see that now?
I'm going to actually turn that over to Judge Kenneth.
Okay, thank you.
Just remembered, I've got to be somewhere now. We are feverishly working on a proposal to collect that data so that we hopefully can show that we do not have a backlog. We may not. To my knowledge, there are no more than maybe 2 or 3 that perhaps have what has been called a backlog. Actually, we have timelines that we have to adhere to for our cases, and we call it adherence to timelines, but it's been more recently referred to as a backlog. And I think once we have a proposal actually that I'm meeting with a couple of senators with today and tomorrow that will define that data and then propose a means to collect it. And once we have done that, I think we will, we'll know. We'll have a rule of thumb as to exactly where we are. If we need improvement, Lord knows we will certainly work at that. But I, for one, as president this year, wanted to make it my goal to show one way or the other exactly where we are. Yes, sir. Anything? Oh, I thought you had your finger up. Okay. Any other questions about that? I will say this, if it's a little bit self-serving, forgive me. In Muskogee, we were not, and I appreciate the chief shining light on Muskogee County this morning in his State of the Judiciary address and recognizing then Chief Judge Gil McBride for the good use of ARPA funds. But the juvenile court, circuit, in fact, we have 6 counties, never had a backlog or an arrearage or a timeline problem that I know of. And we went straight to Zoom the minute the pandemic hit and never got behind. And we're still caught up as far as I know. But we're inputting that data. We have put it, we are back to probably 21 at this point. We haven't gotten back to 19, but maybe. But going forward, we'll be able to show that clearly and cohesively to everybody that's interested.
Okay, great. Judge, thank you for that. I don't see any other questions, so thank you all for being here.
Thank you all for hearing us. Appreciate
Yes,
it.
sir. All right, Prosecuting Attorneys Council. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
With
Great
me,
to see you.
It's great to see you. It's great to see everybody here. Really appreciate it. With me is Chris Jones. Chris is our Chief Financial Officer. He's here not as backup, but to bail me out when I make huge errors. So if he jumps and grabs a microphone, y'all will know what it's about, okay? We're on page 7 of 15, prosecuting attorneys in our conflict program. We're asking for the increased funds, 22.1, increased funds to provide the one-time $1,000 supplement. That's $6,459. We also agree with the House on the reduced funds for personnel costs based on actual start dates of $46,646. If you go to the next page, Superior Court Council of Superior Court Clerks, Mr. Holloman's here, but there's no change in there, so there's nothing that needs to be done on that. District Attorneys, 24.1, increase funds to provide the one-time $1,000 supplement for employees. That's $845,000 from 53. And then reduce funds for personnel based on actual start dates, and that's $93,228. For the Prosecuting Attorneys Council, increased funds provide for the 25.1, that's on page 9 of 15. Increased funds provide a one-time $1,000 supplement for the employees. That comes out to $49,519. Again, it's at 25.2. The House suggested, recommended, and we're fine with this, to reduce funds for actual start dates of new positions, and that's $3,933. And then reduce funds for the Prosecuting Attorney Qualifications Commission. As y'all know, that hasn't started yet, of $843,750. That concludes my budget presentation, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have any questions.
All right. Any questions? Yep. Chairman Tiller.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
The question I have would be the same about the criminal data exchange. I know it's administratively attached to the Judicial Council, but you may have a little bit more data, can give us some feedback about where we're at right now.
And I do, because I chair that committee. We've made tremendous progress. We have adopted the standards. They have been sent out. We're now working on what we call a best practices. The best practices will be put out to the clerks, to the judges, to law enforcement. It was a huge task to bring everybody together that the legislature asked us to do. Clerks of court, police chiefs, sheriffs, prosecutors, all of those. We all had so many different issues that we encountered. GBI. It has really been a tremendous amount of progress, and I will have a report to you and the rest of the legislature in the next coming month, but we're making significant progress.
I want to thank you for, one, taking that task on in addition to your other duties. It's extremely important, as you know, for us to have help judges make wise decisions when they're sitting on the bench. One question more about PAC, though.
Yes.
Can you tell me, first of all, what's your current starting salary? And then how many vacancies do you have?
Now, when you're talking about, are you talking about the council or are you talking about the DAs?
DAs, yeah.
The present starting salary, I think, is $58,539 or something like that.
58.7.
58.7. And presently, we have in assistant DA positions, we have 40 vacancies.
42 ADAs.
42 assistant district attorney vacancies.
Can I ask one follow-up on that, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
Have we started the process? I know your public defender counterparts have started the process of sometimes caving their vacant positions in order to increase starting pay. Have we had any district attorney's offices that have taken us up on that?
We
idea
have
yet?
the council has. Let me back up. The council is considering a number of different options. That is one of them, to cave positions, as you have termed it. That is something that we're going to look at.
Thank you.
And to clarify, the starting pay for a Class 1, Step 1 is $58,250.
All right. Any other questions? Yep.
And Chairman Tiller, we're exploring a whole bunch of different options because I think that's the direction that we have to take.
Senator Parent.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to you, Mr. Skandalakis, and everybody. The judicial circuits with the largest number of conflict cases, which are they?
The largest number of conflict cases, right now, the largest number of conflict cases we're handling comes out of the Chattahoochee Judicial Circuit, where a very prominent defense attorney, Stacey Jackson, was appointed DA. And I know that Our conflict team, which is operating out of PAC, we're handling over 100 cases. I will get you the number, but I've also been able to conflict out or get DAs to volunteer to take courtrooms. So they're showing up in courtrooms. They've assigned ADAs, for example, out of the Stone Mountain Circuit or the Atlanta Judicial Circuit to go to Chattahoochee Circuit and handle that caseload. I will get you the exact numbers, but that is the number one area that we are concentrating on now, but we have conflicts throughout the state.
Yeah, it says 900 conflict cases throughout the state. I would be curious to know the other sort of large areas where there's a larger
I will get those numbers for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? All right, Mr. Scandalakis, thank you very much for being with us, and you too, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Georgia Public Defenders Council.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, thank you
Glad
so
to have
much.
you with us.
Thank you to the chairman and all of you. We're excited to be here. We have a handout that Ms. Rayford just handed out to you. Please allow me to introduce these two young ladies here. This is Terry Rayford. She's CFO. And this is Natalie Glacier. She's the Chief Legal Officer, the Deputy. She does the training, head of training, and a whole lot more. I heard you talk about consolidation. I just wanted to use her as an example. Thank you for allowing us to be here again today. We have a lot of achievements, but we're not going to go through that. It's in the handout. It's also going to be on our website, and I'm just going to go straight to our request, if I may.
Sure.
It's on the last page, page 15. Terry just bailed me out. Show it to me.
243.1.
Okay. Even though we're not going to talk about all our achievements, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for all you have done. As a public defender of many, many, many years, I just never thought I would see the day where we have all the support that you have allowed us to have. We have been able to reinvest in our clients, in our employees, and to foster economic development in all our communities. For that, I just say thank you so much for all that you have done. Just going straight to our request, we want to thank the House for giving us the permission to have the Juvenile Conflict Defender Division that we asked for. That has been granted. I'm asking that you please grant that as well. The only other request that we have is we're asking for 2.955 to complete the end of this year for the gang and RICO cases. There's been an explosion of that. And we, right now, we would have been asking for maybe 4,000 or 5,000, but we have the opportunity to use the ARPA funds to defray that cost. At the end of the day, we're looking at about 2.955 to complete the rest of the year. It's been an explosion in the indictments, and we understand why the indictments come, but we also want to make sure that indicting those cases is not mutually exclusive of providing for us, because we have to defend that. Do I need to say anything else? That's pretty much it. It's all about gang and RICO cases for us right now at this moment to make sure that we can continue to provide representation in the courtrooms.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the committee? Ma'am, let me ask you this. How is your department coming with regard to spending and being able to finish the year? The fiscal.
We are within budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have budgeted for all the independent contractors, $11 million for the fiscal year. We're projecting, with the increase in RICO cases, projecting $15 million. So we have a deficit right now. Once we finish, we're projecting a $4 million deficit. We're going to use about 1.2 for ARPA, because a lot of the cases are old, and that leaves the 2.9 million. And it's hard, of course, to defend RICO cases a lot. For example, Savannah and Griffin, we received 27 count indictment. RICO only takes some of that. I think it was 30, but 27 has to be farmed out to the contractors at $7,500 each. And you can see how that expense goes. So a case that's 25, I think we just had a case that was like 25 count indictment. It was $255,000. It's very expensive. Once we pass 4 clients, we can't absorb it in the agency due to the conflict rules.
Okay. So I want to make sure I follow that. You're projecting about a $4 million deficit for this year, for this fiscal year?
Yes, sir, we did. But because we're able to use the ARPA funds to defray that cost, we're left with 2.9.
Okay. And so how is the 2.9 going to be absorbed?
That's a projection. We're hoping that we can get
Additional
funds from you. We consolidate. I don't know where else we can go in consolidation and bring in programs to the central office, because we do most of our programs from downtown, and just, I call us the UPS, we just send dispatch to where the need is. But at this point, because we have to have the attorneys, we have already gone through more than half of what was budgeted, and we know the indictments will come. That's just a given. The question is, what are we going to do? We are going to use our ARPA funds to manage the cases that are older than 1 year, but at the end of the day, we're still going to have some need, because the indictments are coming, and they come in multiples.
All right. Chairman Tillery.
Following up on Chairman Kennedy's questions, so where's that $2.9 million request?
Where
The House did not put it in.
the House did not put it in. At the time we went to the House, actually, it was more than that. We are now able to use some of our ARPA funds. As we look at the cases that are getting older, we are beginning to transfer that cost to our ARPA funds and use that funds to defray what it would have been if we didn't have that consideration. So it's much less than what it would have been, but we're looking for funds in-house, every possible place we could find funds to make sure that we can reduce the funding that we come to you with.
Any follow-up, Chairman Tillery?
I think they understood what I was saying, is it's not in this request, but, okay. We'll follow up with later.
Yeah.
Okay.
It should be. I'm sorry.
I understand.
It's okay. If we sounds like we do need to have some more discussions about that, so we can at least have some idea of what to expect and in what format. That I think you're alluding to a request that needs to be made apparently, but hasn't come to us yet, and so we can talk more offline about that. But
Okay. Yes, sir.
those conversations definitely need to be had.
Yes, sir.
Please. Thank you. Senator Parent, did you have? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm looking at your document. I believe this is similar to the document that you gave us when we had budget hearings.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so I remember you going through this in detail.
Yes, ma'am.
It looks to me, looking at page 11, that the governor did not have either of these requests, and the House has put in the Juvenile Conflict Defender Division.
Yes, the governor did not put those.
It did not. But that's a unit that we are hoping that you will consider, because we use it to reduce the number of conflict cases for juveniles. If we don't have that in-house, we will be paying per case. And as we continue to consolidate and bring some of these programs in-house, it's actually helping to reduce the cost.
And then, so the House has put in your $228,000, but not your $3 million.
No, ma'am.
And then I remember you talking about this, what's on page 12, because at that hearing you explained to us what the costs that underlay your office providing defense on a RICO case.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess I'm a little confused why we're not hearing about that now.
Well, I just think going to the explanation, I just asked for what it will cost to to provide the defense. I can go into that. I heard the prosecuting attorney's counsel saying, well, they've tried to we cannot conflict of a single case. We pay for all of it. For an example, the case that's coming out of Savannah and Griffin, I think there's 27 clients that will be coming in. We will probably be able to take 4. And let me explain to you why we're even able to take 4 instead of 1, because we've created some initiatives in-house to kind of have different units where we can absorb some of these cases before we farm them out. So I hope I'm answering your question. We have to, we're responsible for providing defense for all these cases. And each defendant has to have their own attorney. We cannot use one attorney for more than one defendant because of the conflict rules.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Senator? Yes, Chairman Tillery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your time on this. How do other states handle this? Do other states have different rules concerning conflicts? Because if you've got a RICO case and you've got 36 defendants charged like you brought up, your agency can represent 1. You can bring in a conflict person from the conflict office to represent 2, and then you have to outsource 34. How do other states handle that? Do they allow each person to stand individually so they can essentially firewall like we're used to seeing in private practices, or what?
I believe that's correct, but the rules here will not allow us to combine representation for more than one client. But what we've done, more than what other states are doing, is making sure we can take more than 2. We have created units within the state called specialized unit, gang and RICO cases, who are not supervised by the same group, so that gives us the opportunity to, every time a case comes in, we can take about 4 or 5 before we can actually start to farm them out.
When you say rules, is it rules of the Georgia Public Defenders Council, or is it
No,
rules
it's the
of
state bar.
State bar?
Yes, sir.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
And in addition to that, we also try to do something called cross-circuit representation. Maybe we have some of our employees statewide who are not terribly busy, and we get permission from their CPDs before we can do that to even take some of these cases. And that helps us with accountability and maintaining the cost in-house.
Sure.
Thank you,
Senator
Mr.
Barrett.
Chairman. Thank you so much. One further question. So when you do find a private practice attorney
Yes, ma'am.
to fill in as a public defender on a gang RICO case,
Yes, ma'am.
they get paid $7,500.
Yes, ma'am. And that's a huge increase from what it used to be. It used to be $3,500. It's now $7,500 for each person that we bring from the outside.
So they're almost doing, it's almost like a pro bono commitment, depending on how long the case will go. I mean, that's not very much money at all for an attorney.
But like I said, this is like 50% increase from what it used to be before we got here. We're doing what we can within the budget, and it depends on how long the case is. If it's a case that's taking a long time, like we have one now, we adjust that so that particular case that I'm alluding to, that's gone up to $55,000 a year. Because
So you have some ability to.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Interesting. All right, thank you.
If the case goes over a certain number of weeks in the courtroom for litigation. And we do have one like that we are very considerate of the time of the attorneys, and that's the one we do $5,000 a month with a cap of $55,000 a year.
Promise you we're getting close to the end of this.
That's all right. No,
This,
this is
as you can tell,
important.
this is important to us try to figure out.
Yes, ma'am.
When you spend for those conflict cases,
Yes, sir.
you've got certain program lines, and everybody understands in this building that we're very beholden to the program lines, because when you start crossing that, that's our legal level of control. Do y'all pay that conflict case out of the personnel budget or out of a contract budget?
It comes out the contract budget. So the way team works,
Can you,
I'm
if
sorry.
you would, yes, thank you.
Sorry, the way Teamworks works, we could create combination codes. So if an employee takes a conflict case, the way we put it in the system, it will hit the conflict budget.
Okay. Because it looked like your employee budget is running close to 90% right now for the year.
Yeah, because it's still, the way the account is still hit with 5033, but it's hitting our conflict budget also because that's where the money is coming from. I'm working with SAO right now and Department of Law to try and create a new code just for that for the cross circuit.
Okay.
So that's in the works, but I have to work with what I have right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Okay, thank you. We appreciate your time, and thank you for patiently answering our questions, and we'll look forward to having some more more discussions off record.
Thank you all, and have a
Okay.
good evening.
Yeah, thank you. That's our agenda. Is Mr. Scandalakis, you had referred to the clerk's portion for Mr. Holloman. Is he here?
He was here. He left. There's nothing. There's just nothing.
Okay. All right, great. All right. Any further comments or questions from the committee before we adjourn? If not, then I'll thank the committee members' time for showing up and thank all of you who came and presented to us today. And with that, we'll stand adjourned. Thank you.